Will Michael Penix Jr. save his young NFL career after a tough start? Or will Marcus Mariota's revenge game lead to the firing of Raheem Morris? This is the Commanders vs. Falcons NFL Week 4 game preview. Let's do this thing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we're here to talk about everything involving the Washington Commanders. Want to start by saying this. If you are from Atlanta, if you're representing A-Town, or you are a fan of the Falcons, whatever, this is a safe space. You are welcome here. Obviously, I'm a Commanders fan. You can tell from the background. But with these game previews, I'm going to give you as objective an opinion I can for both sides, talk about what is at stake, break down the important players, the important matchups, go over some statistics, and then finally get to my final prediction for the game. So before we get any further in this video, I want you guys to hit pause right now, or if you don't need to, just keep listening to my beautiful voice draw on. Scroll down, take 2 seconds, leave me a final score. If you want to tell me why, give me your reasoning, please feel free to leave that as well. But I want everybody watching this video to go let me know what the score prediction is, or what your score prediction is, what's going to happen, all that great stuff. Before we do get into this game, big notes for the Falcons, a big loss in cornerback A.J. Terrell. You remember when these teams matched up last year, he held Terry McLaurin, I believe, to just one catch. And that was like one catch for 5 yards or something like that. So a huge blow for this Falcons defense that has started the year not only better than expected, but just great overall. On the flip side, lots of injuries for the Commanders, and that is partially why this feels like a real must-win game for the Falcons at home, coming off of a 30-0 loss to the Panthers. No Jayden Daniels, no Marcus Mariota. John Bates is expected to be out. Noah Brown is expected to be out. And Croskey-Merritt, Bill, as we all know and love him, is banged up. I think he's going to play, but he is questionable. Also, Will Harris is on IR, Dietrich Wise, a whole bunch of other players. So with that out of the way, let's get into the actual matchup here. What are we going to be looking at when we get to Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time? So I want to start by talking about the Atlanta Falcons offense. Obviously, everything runs through Michael Penix Jr. This is somebody who they drafted with a top 10 pick, despite having just signed veteran free agent Kirk Cousins in free agency. Cousins will not start this game. I know there were some conversations about, wouldn't it be funny if you've got Mariota for the Commanders and Cousins for the Falcons, and they're going back for a double revenge game? It's not going to happen. The Falcons and Raheem Morris have confirmed Penix will be the starter. Now, I'm a big fan of Michael Penix. I liked him at Indiana, loved him at Washington. I like him and Kalen DeBoer. I'm a big Kalen DeBoer guy as well, so I really enjoyed watching them. I thought Ryan Grubb would do some good stuff in the NFL. That didn't work out, and we'll see how it goes at Alabama now. But point being, I was all bought in on that Washington team. The biggest selling point with Penix, who was the head of that snake, is his strong arm. You listen to the Commanders coaches talk about him. That football flies out of his hands. The problem is he's not throwing with the same leverage and the same accuracy he was at the collegiate level. And he wasn't playing with outstanding wide receivers surrounding him, like when we talk about complaints about Ohio State quarterbacks. And this is not to shame Jalen Polk or Rome Odunze, who are good players, but it's not your typical, like I said, Ohio State quarterback, or even some of the concerns that were there for Jayden Daniels, playing with Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors and Kyron Lacey, rest in peace, when they were in college. No, Michael Penix was just an elite thrower of the football. He not only knew how to place it, but he placed it with leverage, so his receiver could catch it and then run, or he would put it in a place where they were fading out of bounds, so there wasn't a chance of it getting broken up. He's failed to do that in his NFL career. In this season alone, he's only completed 58.5% of his passes. He's averaging just about 202 yards per game. He has 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Last week against the Panthers, again, the 30-0 loss to the Panthers, he was 18 of 36 for 172 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It was the first time in more than 2 seasons that a team failed to get past the opposing 30-yard line. They didn't get to the red zone. They didn't even get 10 yards shy of the red zone. Now, with that hanging over this matchup, let's remember, Penix is still a talented player with a live arm, but he did throw an interception in the first quarter when these teams matched up last year. So you want to see if he is able to improve on some of his mistakes so far. The danger man for the Falcons is Bijan Robinson. 239 rushing yards this season, also 14 receptions for a team-high 164 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Yes, I said it. Bijan leads the team in receiving yards, so you need to keep an eye on him not only when he's in the backfield, when he's lined up and empty, when there's a play action, when there's anything. You have to have a man assigned to Bijan Robinson. Drake London is the number 1 wideout, although he has not gotten past 55 receiving yards in a game this season. Some of that can obviously be tied to Penix's inaccuracy, but he is a tall player, 6'4". He's a good red zone threat, and he will get dirty. He will get down and block in the running game. So even if it is a run play, you have to be aware of where Drake London is on the field. No wide receiver and no tight end has scored a touchdown for the Falcons this season. Again, building on some of their offensive deficiencies. You know that they want to change that going into this game. The offensive line for the Falcons ranks 7th in pass block win rate, but only 20th in run block win rate. Right tackle Caleb McGarry is out. Elijah Wilkerson is his replacement. Wilkerson this season gave up a sack and 11 pressures in 3 games at right tackle. Overall, this offense of the Falcons is 23rd in success rate. Success rate is essentially a measure of staying ahead of the chains. Do you pick up 50% of yards needed for a first down on first down? Do you pick up at least 70% on second down? And do you pick up 100% on third or fourth down? So if we think about this in 10-yard increments, can you get to 2nd and 5? Can you get to 3rd and 3? And then can you get a first down? If you get a holding call, so you're backed up to 1st and 20, well, then can you get to 2nd and 10? Then can you get to 3rd and 6? And then can you get the first down? That's how this works. So that in mind, offense is 23rd in success rate, 27th in EPA per play. When you watch this Falcons offense, considering Penix's arm strength, it's very puzzling they don't take more deep shots down the field. You would think with the success that they have had with their pass blocking, having a player like Bijan Robinson, who you love to get outside of the tackles. You love to get on some stretches with the great blockers that you have at receivers, the mismatch you can create with Drake London's height and Kyle Pitts' speed over the middle of the field. You would think they would be primed for some deep play action shots, but they rarely ever take those. So on one hand, you have to be waiting for that play to get dialed up in this game. But on the other hand, more times than not, if you're the Commanders defense, you have to be thinking to yourself, hey, if we see a receiver turn back, it's probably not a double move. It is probably a curl. It is probably a comeback. It is probably a dig. Whatever it is, let me sit on this. Let me jump this route. Keep that in mind as you watch this game unfold. The Commanders offense, as I mentioned at the top here, no Jayden Daniels, no Terry McLaurin, likely to be without John Bates and Noah Brown. Marcus Mariota in his Commanders career has been pretty outstanding. If you remove quarterback minimums and you go back to the start of last season, Mariota's been the most efficient quarterback in the NFL. Now he's gone against much lesser defenses. He got significant reps against the Week 18 Cowboys in the second half, against the Tennessee Titans, I believe. Is that correct? Was it the Tennessee Titans? No, it was the Carolina Panthers, and then obviously the Las Vegas Raiders last weekend. So not great defenses. But with that being said, Mariota, again, in his year and change with the Commanders, 49 of 65 for 571 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 rushing touchdowns. Last week against the Raiders, he goes 15 of 21 for 207 yards, a passing touchdown, 40 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown. And you got to keep in mind, he was not that far away from adding another 40 or 50 yards and 2 touchdowns to that. So it would have been a 4-touchdown performance. He threw the jump ball to Jaylin Lane up the right side on the free play that the refs did not throw the flag for. He threw it perfectly. Lane dropped it. Got to come up with that. That should have been a touchdown. And Terry McLaurin's catch, the 56-yard bomb up the left side, was actually a 57-yard bomb for a touchdown. The NFL replay system got it wrong. So Mariota really did get 3 touchdowns and could have easily had a 4th last week as well. The Commanders last week also had the most first-half rushing yards in the franchise's history since 2010. So for the last 15 years, no Commanders team had done better with their first-half rushing output than they did last week. They ran for 174 yards on that Raiders front line. Bill Croskey-Merritt this season is 7th in the NFL in broken tackles per attempt. He is elusive. He is difficult to get on the ground. Now, he's only got 22 carries for 125 yards, but that is 5.7 yards per carry. He's got 2 touchdowns in 3 games, and you would expect to see his workload continue to elevate without the top receiver and the top quarterback in action. Chris Rodriguez Jr., however, led the team in carries last week with 11 for 39 yards. Jeremy McNichols had 4 carries for 78 yards and that big explosive touchdown run. There was movement on the Commanders' offensive line last week with Brandon Coleman and Nick Allegretti heading to the bench, being replaced by Andrew Wiley and Chris Paul. What was the result of that? Well, both played very well. Both are expected to start again. The offensive line for the Commanders for the season as a whole ranks 10th in pass block win rate, 12th in run block win rate. They're averaging 1.9 yards before contact per carry. That is a good number, but you would like to see them continue to get a good, even better push. And the big note here for the receivers, without Terry, probably without Noah Brown, without John Bates, who's not a receiver, but is a tight end who, while his primary assignment is blocking, you can still send him out on some routes. The receivers, you got to know who's going to win outside. Are we going to see Tate Martin? Are we going to see Ja'Cory Brooks get elevated? Is Luke McCaffrey playing outside the numbers? Is Jaylin Lane playing outside the numbers? Does Debo? He had a great connection with Jayden Daniels during training camp. Jayden's out. It's now Mariota. But with Terry holding out, with Noah being injured during training camp, Debo had to take a lot of those X receiver responsibilities, Z receivers responsibilities going deeper down the field. Do you see his route tree expand? Do you see him sent more on intermediate deep passing routes? That's what we need to watch if we are paying attention to the Commanders receivers. The Falcons defense, like I mentioned, A.J. Terrell is out. With him out of the picture, Mike Hughes is going to be the new number 1 cornerback. He's been targeted 14 times this season, gave up 7 receptions for 38 yards, has 1 pass breakup, no interceptions, no touchdowns allowed. The Falcons rank 3rd in yards allowed per play overall. Only Green Bay and Cleveland have been stingier. They give up just 4.3 yards per play. Now, the Falcons do use light boxes at one of the highest rates in the NFL, but they give up the 5th most rushing yards per play when using light boxes. If you want to figure out why they are doing that, look no further than Divine Diablo, who's an outstanding player, but he is a converted safety who's dropping down to that linebacker spot. So the Falcons are going to trust their coverage instincts and their speed versus loading up on size in the middle of the field. They want to have the ability to stretch the field, go sideline to sideline, and match some of the horizontal pressure that modern NFL offenses put on their defense. The problem with them doing such a poor job defending against the run and when they use light boxes is if you're the Commanders, without your top receivers, you're looking at this and saying, look, the receivers we are playing, you got to be ready to block. And Cliff Kingsbury, you got to be ready to get to 12, get to 13 personnel. The Commanders were highly effective running the ball out of 12 personnel last week. I want to say they averaged something like 9 yards per carry last week. So look for that. If the Falcons are going to leave 6 guys in the middle and we can bring out 12 personnel, let's get Yankoff and let's get Sinnott on the line. Maybe we're 13 with Ertz split out wide. And the Falcons, I assume, in this game are going to have a lot of plays where they're doubling Ertz. Maybe that creates some favorable matchups for the Commanders' rushing game. The Falcons' defense is 5th in EPA allowed per play, 13th in success rate on defense. So while they might not do much better than league average as far as staying ahead of the chains, they do make impactful plays with defense. That's why their EPA is so low, and low said in a positive manner. The Falcons are average in pass rush and run stop win rate. However, they blitz at the highest rate in the entire NFL, and they have generated the 7th highest pressure rate based off of that. When you combine that with the light box approach that they use, if you are the Commanders, the way you interpret this is they are coming on zone blitzes. The middle of the field has to be open. You're most likely only going to have 1, max 2 hook defenders on those types of blitzes. You also have to be wary of pressure coming off the side, cornerback blitzes, safety blitzes. So let's get some quick passing routes over the middle of the field. That's what you're thinking if you are the Commanders' offensive coaching staff. The Commanders' defense, Trey Amos is back for this game. He's been practicing in full. It also sounds like Preston Smith, the newly signed veteran free agent, will have a role on that defensive line rotation. Jeremy Reaves and Tyler Owens are expected to get significant snaps in this game as they try to make up for the loss of Will Harris and with Darnell Savage not really being up to speed with the playbook just yet. You need to see how they hold up. Joe Witt Jr. said towards the end of last week's game, because of all the injuries in the secondary, he really only used 3 calls, and he was just rotating through those towards the end of the game. Despite that, the Commanders gave up a 60-yard touchdown to Trey Tucker, where there was just a complete miscommunication between Mike Sainristil and Jeremy Reaves. I'm trying to think back on the play. I've actually forgotten now, but I believe it was supposed to be of some sort of quarters, and Sainer still was passing them off to Reeves, and Reeves didn't carry it. I could be remembering incorrectly, so don't quote me on that. But it was a very obvious miscommunication, and you have Tucker roaming free down the field for a massive touchdown. Now, those big plays have been the Achilles heel of the Commanders defense this season. They are 8th in success rate, so they do a good job on a play-to-play basis of winning the downs, but they're just league average in EPA per play. So it's almost as if they get stops, and then when they get beaten, it's not just for a 12-yard completion. It's a 50. It's a big run play. It's a chunk play. It's an explosive. You've got to continue to cut down on those if you want this defense to reach its full potential. Now, with me saying that, the defense is only giving up 3.7 yards per carry. That is 8th in the NFL. They also lead the NFL in pressure rate, and they lead the NFL in third down conversion rate allowed, holding opponents to just 28% on third down. So 2 big things here if you are the Commanders. Look to exploit the right side of the offensive line with Elijah Wilkerson not doing the best job in the absence of Caleb McGarry. And then you need speed to contain Bijan Robinson on the outside. You need to have the horizontal, the lateral agility, and speed to get out to the sidelines to contain him on his rushes. Jeremy Reeves come crashing down from the safety spot, make some great open field tackles like you're one to do. But then also when the Falcons come out and empty, when they motion Bijan out to the outside, whatever. You've got to have someone, Mike Sainer still, Jordan McGee, somebody with legitimate speed. They need to be on him because this guy leads the Falcons in receiving yards. You don't want him to get ahead of steam. He will make the first man miss, and he will tear you up from that point on. So now, time for my final prediction. What do I think is going to happen? How do I see this game unfolding? What is my final score going to be? I think this is going to be a relatively ugly game. As good of a job as Mariota has done in his Commanders career, this is an emotional moment for him. Not that I think that will force him into making mistakes, but I do feel like the Commanders are going to try to take some of the pressure off of him, just like they did last week. When you rush for 174 yards in the first half, any quarterback's going to have it easy. Now, Mariota did a great job living up to the moment, but that moment was created by the offensive line, by the running game, by the scheme, by the game script. All of that helped out. I also worry, without your receivers, I really don't know how the Commanders' passing game is going to get going. The loss of A.J. Terrell is obviously beneficial in that aspect, but you are heavily dependent on a strong day from the offensive line, number 1, and from the running game, number 2. Now, on the flip side, with these defenses, the Falcons' defense has been pretty outstanding this season. They gave up 30 points last week, but that was really more the fault of the offense and their ineffectiveness. They did a great job against the Vikings, and then early in the season, they were going to the final minute with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which they ended up losing, but I thought that they did a good job, and really, they missed some opportunities. Baker Mayfield put that ball out there a couple of times. They did not come up with those interceptions, and that ended up being one of the defining factors of this game. The Commanders know about that all too well. They are just one of 3 teams, the others being the Dolphins and the Jets, I believe, who have not forced a turnover yet this season. So these quarterbacks, specifically more so you think Michael Penix Jr., they can make mistakes. They are prone to making mistakes. Mariota's gotten rid of that gene lately. Penix still has it. Is he going to throw a ball to the Commanders? Or are the Falcons going to stop the Commanders' running game, force Mariota to be a drop-back passer, and maybe that puts him in a situation he has not dealt with as a Commanders player yet, and that leads to him making a mistake? What's it going to be? How's it going to play out? These are all big qualities or factors in this game that you need to pay attention to. So my final score prediction, I think it's ugly. I think the Falcons need to try to create shot plays, use play action, set up the deep shots, take advantage of the Commanders' miscommunications on the back end, which they have had numerous of this season. On the flip side, if you're the Commanders, you're going against a team that wants to play light boxes, get to the big guys, get to the 12 personnel, the 13 personnel, run the ball down their throat just like you did last week. See if Chris Paul, see if Andrew Wiley, see if their physicality makes the difference and allows you to assert your will and win this game. And also special teams. The Commanders have the best special teams unit in the entire NFL until you get to kicker, where they might have the worst kicker. So is that an advantage for the Falcons? Although they have struggles of their own because they had Younghoe and they released him, and Parker Romo missed his two kicks in his first game as the starter. So how does that all play out? I'll give my final score here now. I'm going to say the Commanders win 17-16. I think the Commanders' offense will look better on a play-to-play basis, but I think the Falcons will create more explosive plays. That gets me into a situation where I am worried about field goal kicking, red zone efficiency, things like that, playing within the margins. I know the Falcons defense has had a very good start to the season, but the Commanders' ability to generate pressure and their improved run defense in tight moments, I think they can shut down the goal line for the most part. Falcons maybe kick 1 or 2 red zone field goals. That's why they have to go for 16 points. And let's say that would be a touchdown and 3 field goals instead of 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, which would win the game for them 20-17. So I'll take the Commanders 17-16. The Commanders open as 3-point favorites. The line dropped to 1.5, and now it's 1.5 in the points in the favor of the Falcons. So I'm taking the upset here. I will take the Commanders. But guys, make sure you go to the comment section. Leave me your thoughts on your score predictions, what you see happening. Also, let me know your thoughts on what I said in this video. Make sure you leave a like. Even if you are a Falcons fan, you're still welcome here. I promise this is a safe community. Your thoughts are appreciated and welcomed, and you are appreciated and welcomed. So do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. And as I always say, enjoy the games. I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.